Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to this video. It is nigh on 9 p.m. Monday the 15th of June UK time. I hope that you are having a good day today and you have Shalom in your heart and Yeshua HaMashiach on your mind and the Word of God as a lamp unto your feet. Our redemption draws near. That day quickly approaches. We can see the day approaching, and I encourage you to look up, for our salvation draws nigh. The land of Israel is about to be divided, and that is what all this chaos in this world is about. I'm going to go through the headlines, and then I'm going to discuss why the solar eclipse, which is coming up this weekend, is special, and I'll go through the details of that as best I can, try to explain it. I hope that you enjoy. Let's get started. Netanyahu hails support for historic sovereignty move. All we have to do is agree to hold talks with the Palestinians, the Prime Minister says, referring to the steps Israel must take as per the Trump administration's peace plan in exchange for extending its sovereignty. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the US for backing his plans to declare Israeli sovereignty in the Jordan Valley and settlements in Judea and Samaria in a meeting with members from the movement Bithonitzim at Prime Minister's office on Monday. The Bithonitzim representatives want to express their support for Netanyahu and said the American recognition of the move was of great importance and that Israel was facing a historic opportunity. Okay, this Netanyahu says all we have to do is agree to hold talks with the Palestinians, and he says that that in several months the protests in the Arab world against the move will stop. So that is their thinking, that they should just go ahead and continue with this. But the response from the European Union and from the Palestinians is going to be they're saying that it's going to be the recognition of a Palestinian state. So this is pretty much just saying what has been said before. They want to progress with this and they want to push ahead. So Prime Minister says US wants Gantz on board for annexation and vows not to back down. Blue and white officials tell TV network they can't form position as they haven't been presented with clear maps, and Netanyahu said to suggest move could be pushed back past July the 1st. Okay, so this goes on to say Netanyahu said the conversation was now about how to carry on the move, and he emphasized that it depends on the internal negotiations of the government between the partners Likud and Blue and White, according to an unidentified source who took part in the meeting that told the network. The statement from Netanyahu's office on the meeting said the premier touted the historic opportunity. Okay, so we know that they've had a meeting with Ambassador Friedman, whose very name means peace. Friedman means peace, and he is an ambassador of peace, and the word of God says the ambassadors of peace shall weep bitterly. It was Friedman's second meeting with them in as many days, so they've had two meetings over the last 2 days, and they're talking about it being pushed back past July the 1st, but Netanyahu's pretty determined. He wants to bring the annexation as soon as possible. It says, regarding Netanyahu, I wanted to bring annexation for approval soon, but the map still isn't completed. The Daily quoted him as saying during the Likud faction meeting. Netanyahu was referring to the work of a joint US-Israeli committee mapping the areas of the West Bank that Israel can annex under the Trump plan. That's important. Understand that it's under the Trump plan that this is being done, and under the details of that plan, the remaining land is for a Palestinian state. The US has said that the committee must complete its work before Israel can move ahead. So they're talking about this potentially being moved past July the 1st. But they are busy in the mapping process. It says sources in Gantz party told Channel 12 that they could not present any clear position on Netanyahu's annexation plans as they had not been given any clear proposal or maps. They suggested that Netanyahu might not know himself how he wished to proceed. So there is infighting already, as you'll see in further articles, that there is tension between Likud, Netanyahu, and Gantz, Blue and White already, and there's talk about new elections being called. So we shall see. Likud said in a statement in response, Gantz for his own reasons, refused to view the sovereignty maps in today's meeting. So what's going on? I don't know. It sounds like Gantz doesn't want to see the maps, and he's saying that Netanyahu doesn't want to show him the maps. So who knows? Okay, so if and when there is a peace agreement based on a plan, it can be brought for approval and not before. That is what Gantz is saying. Haaretz reported Netanyahu told lawmakers he would not bring the entire Trump plan, which supports the establishment of a Palestinian state, to the government or Knesset for approval, only the part on annexation. So we're waiting to see exactly how this is going to go ahead. But it is being pushed and it's being discussed on a daily basis. This is what Netanyahu's focus is. And Gantz says that the peace deal of the century gives us a realistic approach of how a stable future should look. I beg to differ. And he says, I intend to promote it as much as I can in a most responsible way, Gantz said in an interview. Okay, so they are continuing to negotiate, and there is some tension because they don't know how to proceed with this. Netanyahu wants to push ahead with unilateral annexation, and Gantz is against it, so we shall see what's going to happen. And here we can see Netanyahu says blue and white's behavior in government unacceptable. Prime Minister reportedly furious at action by blue and white MKs since formation of unity government. He says this cannot continue. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is furious at the conduct of the blue and white party in the new government and has called the situation unacceptable. Can you see new elections coming soon? This cannot continue, Netanyahu reportedly told associates in the Likud party, adding that he would meet Benny Gantz in the coming days to set things in order in the unity government. In the Likud and among his associates, there is increasing pressure on Netanyahu to call for new elections as soon as possible. And they are trying to negotiate this Norwegian law, which says that there can be rotation of MKs in the Knesset, and Netanyahu says that the blue and white party need to agree. So they are saying that if there are new elections called based on the Supreme Court interfering, that Netanyahu will remain as the prime minister, and that's not in the coalition deal which formed this very government. So there's political shifting. There is chess being played here, political chess, and it's not very friendly. Okay, so we'll see what happens with this. Maybe they will call new elections, and just like Shoshani said, so we'll see if the government falls again. We're going to see. And Netanyahu says sovereignty might be implemented in stages. Prime Minister tells ex-IDF officials he's committed to sovereignty in 30% of Judea and Samaria, but process might not be carried out all at once. So we discussed that about the three settlements, Ma'ale Adumim, Gush Etzion, and Ariel are in focus. And so he's saying this to some of the people, and it says that under the coalition agreement, the government and the Knesset can begin to take action on application of sovereignty on July the 1st. So that's Netanyahu saying that sovereignty may start small if Gantz insists. PM Gantz to hold second meeting with Ambassador Friedman, and that took place today. It says Israel may apply its law to only some of the settlements this summer because US will only support it if Prime Minister Gantz is on board. And Benjamin Netanyahu told a group of former IDS senior commanders there's a strong possibility that Gantz will only agree for sovereignty to be applied in phases. But if they start to apply the sovereignty in phases, the response from the Palestinian Authority is going to be the same, from Jordan, from EU. It's not going to make a difference how this goes ahead. If it's even in phases, it's going to meet a huge backlash. It says US President Donald Trump's plan allows Israel to annex 30% of the West Bank, including all settlements in the Jordan Valley. The Trump plan is a historic opportunity for Israel and must be seized now while Trump is in office, Netanyahu told the Protectors of Israel group. Asked by MK what Gantz's blue and white faction wants to do, Netanyahu said it was unclear. I want to bring sovereignty, Netanyahu says, to a vote within days, but the map isn't ready. We are in talks with the Americans. We want their agreement for the entire matter. So America's hand is fundamental in this. We held 2 discussions with Blue and White. I don't know what their stance is. We want to finish the mapping. And then it says, Netanyahu also said the entire Trump plan will not be brought to a vote. Rather, it will be used as a basis for negotiations with the Palestinians should they agree to talks. When I have an agreement, I will bring it for authorization in the Knesset and the government. And then he says the plan is not annexation, it is applying sovereignty, and construction will not be frozen. So that's political semantics. Whether you want to call it annexation or sovereignty, it makes no difference really. Okay, so it's progressing ahead and it's going to continue to do so, and we will keep an eye on that. But Jordan, the Jordanian King Abdullah, has snubbed Netanyahu and refused his calls over the annexation push. He has not taken Netanyahu's call, and he has also said that the meeting with Benny Gantz should be called off. So he is very annoyed about this. Abdullah also refuses to schedule a meeting with Defense Minister Benny Gantz to discuss Israeli plans. According to the Palestinian report, the Prime Minister said to tell reservists he will annex in stages. Jordan's King Abdullah has reportedly refused to take phone calls from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu amid seething anger in the Hashemite kingdom over Israeli plans to annex portions of the West Bank. Here it comes, guys. This is it. This is what it's all about. Exclusive. Israel builds new Jerusalem road that will link settlements as government weighs West Bank annexation. This is going ahead. This is going to be done. They are now building roads between the settlements. Construction is underway on a major new ring road for Jerusalem that Israeli officials say will benefit all of its residents, but critics of the project say it is another obstacle to Palestinian hopes to make East Jerusalem the capital of a future state. The bypass, called the American Road, will connect Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank that are north and south of Jerusalem. The central and southern sections of the road are already being built, and tenders from the northernmost stretch at a projected cost of $187 million. It's all about money, guys. Money bags. Will be issued towards the end of the year, a Jerusalem municipality official told Reuters. So here you can see, here's the roads. These are connecting the settlements. There's Ma'ale Adumim right there on the east side of the temple, and so they are progressing ahead. This is all part of the plan, and here you can see this road was abandoned in the 1967 war, and now they've started it again. So they are connecting the settlements. And it says the construction comes as the Israeli government is set to begin cabinet-level discussions from July the 1st about implementing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's election promise to annex Jewish settlements in the West Bank. So I'll put all these links in the description of the video, and you can read the articles for yourself. Construction begins on American Road linking Jerusalem area settlements. So there's construction that is supporting this move as well. And EU foreign ministers talk with Pompeo ahead of expected West Bank annexations. We are reaching out to try to persuade everybody that annexations are not a good idea and will create instability. The demons are concerned. Satan sees his time is short. The whole world is in uproar about this, and yet there's not a peep of this on the mainstream media. This is the Holy Land according to the 3 Abrahamic religions, which makes up the vast majority of the population of the world, and yet not a word about it, because there is a deception in play, my friends. There's a deception in play that is dedicated to keeping people in the dark from the real news, from the important news. And the dividing of the Holy Land, regardless of which religion you subscribe to, if you are one of those Abrahamic religions, is very, very important. So I don't understand how this cannot even make it in the news. Well, I do, because we live in the kingdom of Satan, right? So EU ministers kick off campaign pressure. to pressure Pompeo on annexation, top diplomats to hold video talks with US counterparts as side moves apart on Israel, ICC, and China. So they are trying to put pressure on Pompeo to stop this.
Okay, guys, now for the interesting part. I have the Wikipedia page open for the solar eclipse of August 21st, 2017. This was the Great American Eclipse. This was a total eclipse, which means that the moon completely covers out the sun, which is different to an annual eclipse, which is when the ring of fire is seen in the solar eclipse. So what I want you to pay attention to here is this little portion of information under references, which says Saros 145. This particular eclipse was the 22nd eclipse of 77 eclipses in Saros Group 145. So this is going to get a little bit technical, but I'm sure that you will understand it. I'll try to explain it as best as I possibly can and as simply as I can, so that you can understand why that this solar eclipse is important. So Saros number 145 is different to this weekend's solar eclipse. Here you can see solar eclipse of June 21st. This is Saros number 137, and this particular solar eclipse is number 36 of 70 solar eclipses in this Saros group. So there are different Saros groups, and within those different groups are a number of eclipses, usually between 70 and 80 eclipses in each Saros group. So it's important to understand that the solar eclipses are related to one another. I'm going to go into the Saros information so that hopefully you can understand it a little bit better and how these groupings actually work. So here it talks about the eclipses and the Saros, and this is how they would tell when solar eclipses were going to happen in antiquity. It says here the periodicity and the recurrence of eclipses is governed by the Saros cycle, a period of approximately 6,585.3 days, or 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. It was well known to the Chaldeans as a period when lunar eclipses seem to repeat themselves, but the cycle is applicable to solar eclipses as well. And the Saros arises from a natural harmony between three of the moon's orbital periods. Here we can see they talk about where the moon is, and the moon is where, if it's in apogee or perigee, or whether it's a new moon. I'm not going to go into bore you with these details, but what I just want you to understand is that there are different cycles of solar eclipses, and there within those cycles of solar eclipses is a grouping. So we've got Saros series 145 for the Great American Eclipse, and we've got Saros series 137 for this particular solar eclipse, which is coming up right now. Okay, so if we look at the Saros series 137, which is this weekend, it gives us a list here again of the solar eclipses which occur in this group. So each Saros group is usually 12 to 13 centuries, so that's 1,200 to 1,300 years long, and contains, surprise, surprise, 70 or more eclipses. So God, in the book of Genesis, tells us that He created the sun and the moon and the stars for signs and for seasons. Okay, so this is just, the fact that there are 70 or more eclipses, between 70 and 80, is incredible. And every Saros series begins with a number of partial eclipses near one of the Earth's polar regions. The Saros series begins with a number of partial eclipses near the polar regions. So if the Saros series is an even number, then it means that Saros series begins at the southern pole. If the Saros series is an odd number, it means that Saros series begins at the northern pole. So here is a list of the eclipses which occurred in this Saros series. You can see the first one is not very far south from the northern pole. That's 64 degrees. And this was in 1389. That's when this Saros series began, and it began all the way up by the North Pole, and exactly 6,585.3 days. It will move a little bit further south and a little bit further south and a little bit further south. And as you can see, it goes further and further south, and then eventually it gets to the South Pole. So I'm going to show you an animation of this so that you can understand exactly what this is talking about. This is Saros Series 137, and you can see it starts off at the North Pole, and it gradually works its way down to the South Pole. And again, it's looping, so starts its way at the North Pole and gradually works its way down to the South Pole. Right, so this is the series which this eclipse belongs to, and if we look at the Saros series 145, you can see that this very much the same thing happens. Because it's an odd number, it goes from the North Pole down to the south, and that is 6,585.3 days. Those in this particular group, 77, this animation that you're watching is 77 solar eclipses, and in Saros series 137 is 70 solar eclipses. So I hope you guys can see the grouping of the Saros solar eclipses. And the reason why that this is very interesting is because in this Saros group, this solar eclipse is happening on June the 21st. You will see over here that this Saros group was the one that the solar eclipse, which happened 5 days before Israel became a nation, was Saros Group 137. Okay, so that is the reason why this is interesting, is because this solar eclipse belongs to the Saros Group, which the solar eclipse which occurred 5 days before Israel became a nation. And here you can see that May the 9th, 1948, that was Saros Group 137. And we have had since then 1, 2, 3, 4 solar eclipses. So this is the 4th solar eclipse after that solar eclipse which occurred on May the 9th, 1948, Saros Group 137. And I want you to have a look here. You can see that this AM means annular and it means middle. So this particular solar eclipse which is happening this weekend is the very center of all these solar eclipses. So this is Saros Group 137, has 70 solar eclipses in it, and this is solar eclipse number 36. So this is the middle. This is the very middle of the entire Saros group. And it's interesting that they are coming to divide God's land and part that in half. And July the 1st, which is when they're talking about starting this annexation, is at the very center of the year, and that cuts the year in half. And here you can see this is the very middle of the Saros group. I think that's pretty awesome. Also, look at the number. This is the delta time. This is the difference between universal time and the atomic time. And I'm not going to get into that. If you want to research that, you can see. But look, it's 72. How old is Israel? Israel is 72 years old. So that's pretty fascinating, guys, that the Saros group 137 is the same Saros group that happened on May the 9th, 1948. Now I'm going to show you something also quite fascinating. These particular solar eclipses, we're going to have a look, and you will see that this solar eclipse happened in Aries, and then all these other solar eclipses until the one this weekend occurred in Taurus, the bull, judgment. So these solar eclipses have traversed the bull, and I'll show you that right now. Okay, guys, so on the side, I have the first solar eclipse here. You can see this is May the 9th, 1948. I hope you can see it. You'll probably have to watch this on a large screen because it might be difficult to see otherwise. Okay, so May the 9th, 1948, that was Saros number 32. On the right-hand side, you can see that solar eclipse took place in Aries. Okay, So I have the ability in this astronomy program. I know a lot of you guys have asked me what it is. It's called the Sky X. Okay, so here you can see I have the ability to put in that very number of days, 6,585.3 days, and I can step forward. And as I step forward that number of days, I go to May the 20th, 1966. So there you can see May the 20th, 1966 on the left-hand side. Now this is number 33 in the Saros series, and now we've entered into the bull on the right-hand side. Okay, then I'm going to step forward again, 6,585.3 days exactly on the right-hand side here. Step forward, and I'm at May the 30th. You see, it's absolutely precise. The heavens are like clockwork, guys. God has done an incredible thing here. It is like a finely tuned Swiss watch with a million zeros of complexity behind it, right? So you can see that the next one, if I step forward again, and we come to June the 10th, right? June the 10th, 2345. So it's right on June the 11th, and there you can see exactly traversing the bull. That was 18 years ago, and then another step forward, and that is exactly where the solar eclipse is happening. So the solar eclipse, which is occurring this weekend, is exiting the bull. It's right at the club of Orion. It's at the foot of Gemini, and it is also the center of the whole Saros cycle. It's dividing the whole Saros cycle, which is 12 to 13 centuries. This is 1,200 years. This falls exactly in the middle, and it has traversed the bull from the very date that was the 9th of May 1948. I hope that I've explained that well enough so that you guys can appreciate that the solar eclipses which have occurred since Israel became a nation are all related to one another, and they have traversed the bull. So we've gone from Aries, we're exiting the bull, and so this is a very interesting solar eclipse. It's also an annual solar eclipse, which means that it's the ring of fire as opposed to the total solar eclipse, like the Great American Eclipse, covered out the sun completely. And this one is causing a ring of fire. So I thought that was very interesting, guys. I wanted to show you that this particular solar eclipse is related to the very solar eclipse which happened at the birth of Israel, 5 days before the birth of Israel. So we shall wait and we shall see, and I'll update you with regards to any new information that I have. I love you very much, and I'll see you in the sky.